Scores of local Rastafarians converged on E.T. Joshua Airport on Monday, October 17th, in a chanting farewell to their four Rasta brethren who would accompany the Prime Minister on an historic visit to Ethiopia.
One perfect love is I want to say on behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines how pleased I am for this particular moment.
The Rastas were elated as their brothers were embarking on a visit to their spiritual homeland to witness the signing of a visa waiver agreement between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Ethiopia. Ethiopia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines established diplomatic relations when Foreign Affairs Minister Louis Straker visited the East African country in 2004. The first stop outside of the Caribbean was in the UK, where the delegation was met by High Commissioner Senior Lewis. Then it was on to Ethiopia, where the delegation was warmly greeted by Ethiopian government officials.
This is our first love at home. Tenistelin, Ying Masgan, Konjo Dink, all the blessings of Abba be with I and I.
President be to Africa. Bless the land, motherland.
The next day, Prime Minister Gonzalez and delegation got to meet the only Vincentian Rastafarian in Ethiopia. He is Haile Tafarai, better known as Bandi Payne in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Bandi Payne, who popularized the banana art here, has been away for some 14 years, 11 of which was spent in Ethiopia. Married with 3 children, Haile Tafarai has a fledgling business in banana art and spends his time between Addis Ababa, the capital, where his family resides, and the Rastafarian commune, the town of Shashimane.
And I am some fruits for breakfast in Ethiopia,
Ethiopia good land.
Yeah, man. Right.
Bandi Payne joined the group for breakfast and brought the Prime Minister up to date on issues affecting the Rastafarian movement in Ethiopia. He was very emotional about the visit.
A real joy seeing everyone, you know what I mean? I can't express it in words.
Ethiopia has a very long and rich history. In fact, it is known as the cradle of civilization. Prime Minister Gonzalez and his delegation visited the National Museum in Addis Ababa, where one of the earliest fossils of human existence, known as Lucy, now rests.
Well, this Rift Valley contributed a lot for the study of humanity in general, especially the African part of the great East African system contributed a lot. And suddenly, a few miles away from their camp, Dr. Johansen saw these pits. And he immediately knew that this is harmony, this is very important. And he just seriously looked at it and told his friends that he found something important and that they should go back to their camp, bring their colleagues, all their equipments, cameras, measurements, everything, to just take the context as a whole. And all the group came to the site, to the spot, and everybody started looking around, okay, his feet. And they knew for sure that there are many, many more important fossil records that are, just fragments. And they started excavating, collecting, everything. They completed their collection or excavation, few excavation only. Most of the parts of Lucy we see here are found on the upper surface, okay? Very few excavation to the lower layers only. And after 12 days of thorough, continuous, campaign on that spot, they finally came up with this complete remain of Lucy.
As was expected, here at this museum there are symbols of the reign of Haile Selassie.
Well, as Your Excellency very well knows, Haile Selassie is one of the great fathers of Africa. He had lots of great history, great contribution to Ethiopia. Here we have in this museum, due to the space, we just couldn't display everything. We just have only a few examples of His Majesty.
The delegation found the throne from which Selassie ruled Ethiopia and took turns in recording the event. At the end of the extremely educational tour, the Prime Minister signed the visitor's book.
Ethiopia, the cradle of human civilization, is exhibited in all its majesty and humility. The history of this noble land is awesome. Standing in the presence of the throne of Emperor Haile Selassie I Rastafari, the Lion of Judah, King of Kings, has been a most moving experience, particularly so in the company of my wife, my firstborn son, and the Rastafari brethren from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thanks to the government of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and its public servants for according my delegation and I the honor and privilege of visiting.
And the world best writers, man. The world best speakers, man.
You have just met your ancestor, which is also the ancestor of mankind. What did you feel about that?
Well, I've read about it, and now I see Lucy, and I see the finds of human civilization, that we have the privilege of standing in the cradle of civilization, the origins of man. It is not something that many persons often experience, and I'm very privileged to have been here and honored with my wife, my son, and the brothers from the Rastafari movement in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and from other officials who are here with us. I want to thank the government and people of Ethiopia and its public officials. This visit certainly cements at a historical and a spiritual level the links between Ethiopia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It has touched our soul, it has touched our spirit, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ethiopia is a vast country of over 70 million people. It is the size of France and Spain put together. The capital city, Addis Ababa, is a busy place with thousands of people trying to eke out a living from its dry beauty. Here, trees are a premium, and the donkey is king.
If I reach home, in return, I could do things for the video, for the TV. Get all the elderly people, the children, you know, the Sesame Street, that program. Do something like that. Use up all the folk songs and we, you know, everything we know put together in an educational package. And I
Haile Selassie.
Yeah, man, I hail all one's home, man. You know, Bishma and the Crichtons, man, Charlie, John and all them man up
Alright,
street.
if you
So much
change-
names.
if you
Do
really get
every
some
man.
balls, you know.
So much names to call, you know what I mean?
Huh?
I just hail ones from the top of my heart.
What I now?
Health
What
to
why
everyone.
Martin going
Yeah? Bless to everyone, man.
Yeah,
With
man.
prosperity. Yeah, I saw him come, man.
The party got a look at the city as they journeyed to a place called Entoto. It was the home of Emperor Menelik II, a predecessor of Haile Selassie.
ጎረቤት ተጠርቶ የልብ ወዳጄ ቢላው ቀርቦ መላው ሲዘጋጅ ሰው እንዴት ባፍ ያርዳል በእጅ ነበር እንጂ ከወዲያ የመጣች ያለላ ሞዳይ ከወዲያ የመጣች ያለላ ሞዳይ የሴት ባልንጀራ ውስጡን ገዳይ
Menelik became emperor of Ethiopia in 1889 and lived on this compound. The prime minister was given a tour of the palace.
You get a profound sense that you're in the presence of history. The museum, the church, the entire compound. You see an ancient civilization at work. You see the intermixing of religious beliefs, cultural symbolisms, and political authority. It shows an organized society at work. In modern day Ethiopia has a noble civilization on which to draw, to inspire it, to further ennoble itself, and to lift the people as a whole. This country is simply amazing in its depth, the dignity of the people, their calm, their serenity, and their obvious commitment to humane values. It's all manifest in what we have here. And I'm deeply impressed and deeply moved.
Ethiopians are very religious people. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church command a tremendous influence on a large proportion of the people of this ancient country. People flock to the environs of the churches daily to pray. The Prime Minister joined the 4 Vincentian Rastafarians on a ritual trek around the church as the brethren continued their spiritual journey in this their spiritual homeland.
And it is initial move? Yes. And initial move doing that?
Yeah, but when I give thanks to be standing in such presence upon our ancient sacred monuments, which bring tranquility and joy to our hearts to be here in Ethiopia and Addis Ababa. I ask you to continue to fortify our strength, but our strength. Grant our long life and good health, that I may endure to see all the fulfillment of thy prophecies pertaining to I and I return to I and I homeland. Hail I,
Selassie I,
King Rastafari. Hail I,
Selassie I the first.
King Rastafari. Hail I,
Selassie I the first. King Rastafari.
Strengthen thy hands to war. Strengthen thy feet that I and I may stand in thy presence. For I bow forever. Our divine King, Creator, I the Selassie.
Bless.
My God.
አንጀቴን በላችኝ ወፌ ጉራ መሬ ከክትታው ላይ ጠይም ዘለግላጋን አላየሽም ወይ ጠይም ዘለግላጋ እኔ የታየቼ ባቡር መጣ ሲሉኝ መተማገ
One of the highlights of the visit was the Prime Minister's meeting with Prime Minister Zilis Zenawi of Ethiopia. The meeting took place at the Grand National Palace, where Prime Minister Gonzalez inspected a guard of honor. This is the palace that Haile Selassie built. It reflects the splendor of a reign that was full of pomp and confidence. It was here that the prime ministers of SVG and Ethiopia sat down to forge a new relationship between Africa and one of the aspects of the diaspora. The Ethiopian prime minister agreed to the waiver of visa restrictions between both countries and agreed to take to parliament a bill that will confer special status on Rastafarians. The two leaders later held a press conference to announce the new agreements, which included a pledge by St. Vincent and the Grenadines to offer post-secondary scholarships to Ethiopians who wish to study in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Prime Minister and delegation also paid a visit to the President of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, Mr. Gilma Giorgis. Discussions were held around the relationship between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Ethiopia. Following this, the party was taken on a tour of the living quarters of the former Emperor Haile Selassie. His bedroom, living rooms, and office have all been preserved in exactly the same way he left it. The lion, a potent symbol of Selassie's reign, guards the outer reaches of the large mansion. The delegation was further treated to the tour of their life. In the basement of the palace is an unbelievable display of Haile Selassie's household items. Glasses, cutlery, etc. are pure silver or gold. This basement is rarely seen by ordinary people. It is now a virtual museum, the contents of which are worth in the millions of dollars. Some of these items are also gifts from visiting heads of state from all over the world.
ይድኖ ባስተዬ አልከረምሽ ማሉን ሸበል ላይ ባስተዬ አላለፍሽ ማሉን ወጣሁኝ ወረድኩኝ ከቆላም ከደጋ ለፍቼ ደክሜ አይ አላገኘሁሽ 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 ትገኛለሽ ቢሉኝ አንሳሮ ላንሳሮ ትመጫለሽ ቢሉ አሪሮ ላሪሮ ትውያለሽ ቢሉኝ ከቤቶችሽ ጓሮ ትታያለሽ ቢሉኝ አስተሮ ላስተሮ በራሪ ሆንኩልሽ አይ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ ትመጫለሽ ቢሉኝ አሪሮ ላሪሮ ትውያለሽ ቢሉኝ ከቤቶችሽ ጓሮ ትታያለሽ ቢሉኝ አስተሮ ላስተሮ በራሪ ሆንኩልሽ አይ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ ሳይኖረኝ ቀጠሮ
The Rastafarian movement in Ethiopia, upon hearing upon the achievement of the Vincentians' visit to Ethiopia, visited the hotel to congratulate Prime Minister Gonzalez.
My name is Dr. Desta Megu Pedi, and I've recently repatriated to Ethiopia after resigning from the Bob Marley Foundation, where I was managing director and the implementer of the recent Africa Unite event that was held here in Addis Ababa for Brother Bob Marley's 60th birthday. I am here as a worker. I've been an activist and a Rastafarian almost 30 years. Very active in my community, born in Jamaica, lived in the United States, and now here in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is here in Ethiopia making interventions on behalf of Rastas. What do you think about this?
I think it is absolutely phenomenal, brilliant, and we just give thanks. We also look at it in a prophetic sense because we know that victory would be ours. And victory for the Rastafari people is victory for all black people, because essentially what we want is the development and the advancement of black people. We've been held down through various forms of colonialism, racialism, and so forth. So I think what the Prime Minister doing is setting a precedent, and we should not localize it or regionalize it to just the island of St. Vincent. It has relevance to both the Caribbean community and the diaspora as a whole, and in a greater context, even Africa in terms of African development. Because one of the things that we're lobbying for to the African Union is to create, and this just happened at the recent conference for intellectuals in Dakar that the AU held, looking at ways of increasing relationships between the diaspora and the continent, because Africa cannot be developed to its fullest without the help of diasporans. So essentially what the Prime Minister is doing is opening or creating a substantive gateway to allow us to come back and forth to Africa for developmental purposes, spiritual purposes, historical purposes, and I just think it's amazing. He should be applauded and really supported, and I hope that the other countries will follow suit, particularly Jamaica, my island, and the CARICOM nations in general.
Tenestilin, greetings of perfect peace and love from the gates of Zion, Ethiopia, to all the people there, out there in the Caribbean, especially St. Vincent's. I must say, you are a very blessed people to have such a fortunate Prime Minister in the person of Mr. Ralph Gonzalez. He's really, I would say, a Rasta ambassador in the true sense of the word, because he can open doors where we cannot open doors. He's pursuing our aim and objective of repatriation to our mother and father home, Africa. So I can say, St. Vincent's, you are truly blessed to have such a wonderful person as Prime Minister, Mr. Ralph Gonzalez.
You live here?
Yes, I'm living in Ethiopia 17 years now.
Wow. Could you tell me some more about yourself, your name and so on?
Yes, my baptized Ethiopian Orthodox name is Waldi Selassie, which means Son of the Trinity. My passport name is Ambrose King. My profession is I'm a building engineer. My wife also is a professional. She's a school teacher. So we decided very long ago to repatriate to Ethiopia and to give our skills and our profession for the development of our beloved home, Ethiopia.
Where you repatriated from?
I was in England working and studied there and growing and living for many years before I came direct to Ethiopia.
No visit to Ethiopia is complete without a visit to Shashamane. This is the Rastafarian commune, about 3.5 hours drive from the capital Addis Ababa. It is some 260 kilometers south of the capital. The route is very scenic. Large tracts of pasture land, beautiful lakes, high mountains, and the quaint villages are a feast to the eyes.
አደስጌ ወርጄ አልመጣሽም አሉ አንጎርታ ወርጄ አልታየሽም አሉ ይድኖ ባስተዬ አልከረምሽም አሉ ሸበል ላይ ባስተዬ አላለፍሽም አሉ ወጣሁኝ ወረድኩኝ ከቆላም ከደጋ ለፍቼ ደክሜ አይ አላገኘሁሽም አላገኘሁሽም
The delegation arrived in Shashimane to a warm welcome from officials of the town and the Rastafarian community.
telephone number is there. My telephone number is there.
There was one surprise. Mrs. Eloise Gonzalez, wife of Prime Minister Gonzalez, met one of her relatives from Dominica. He is Desmond Trotter.
Eloise, look Desmond. Desmond Trotter. That's my Harris daughter, you know. From above. I don't know the one behind that. How long is it?
Safari and
that's Desmond Trotter.
I know.
All right, my brother.
Yes,
Ancient King of Iration is the Alpha and the Omega, beginning without an end, the first and forever, the protectorate of I faith and rule of the universe. Hail ye I! Hail ye I! Hail ye I! Rastafari! Psalms 9. And I will praise thee, say it with me, yes. Everyone. I'll praise thee, O Lord of Lords. Say it. I will praise thee, O Lord of Lords, with our whole heart. I'll show forth all thy marvelous works. I'll be glad and rejoices in thee. I will sing praises unto thy name, O thou Most High. O thou Most High.
When our enemies are turned back, they shall fall down and perish at our presence. Or thou art maintain our right.
On behalf of the Rastafarian community here in Shashamane, we are happy to convey to you and to members of your entourage a hearty and very cordial welcome.
Rastafari!
We are very pleased that you have been able to make it to the Promised Land. We have returned to Africa, which I've acknowledged as our home and heritage. In the Caribbean, our forefathers taught us that we were Africans and that repatriation is a must. They taught us that our kings live and reign in Ethiopia and therefore encouraged us to return home. As everyone knows, in the early 1500s, millions of Africans were taken by force into captivity into the new world of the Americas. It is true that while most of these Africans are said to have been taken from the west coast of Africa, slaves were also taken from as far as Mount Kenya in northeast Africa. It is a fact that Africans were also taken into slavery from along the sea coast of Ethiopia. It is also a fact that throughout our 500 plus years of exile in the West, many of us Africans, even against the greatest odds, never forgot our motherland, Africa, and never gave up the desire to repatriate to our bosoms.
And appear to concern the things which are held in common by both the Ethiopians and the Caribbean nations. For cooperation between all of us have to lead our people to greater achievement and mutual benefit, which will enable all of us to move forward far into the future. Today we hope that the creation of this historical bond will be the pillar of our future relationship in the reconstruction of a better world, both spiritual and temporal. We once again welcome Your Excellency and all other distinguished guests to the Rastafarian community here in Ethiopia. Thank you all. Ja.
We take this time to have the
Now, since last year, our government had taken a decision to propose to the government of Ethiopia to have a visa waiver agreement between our two countries. We didn't think that it was sufficient simply to establish diplomatic relations, but we wanted to have important people-to-people contact. That agreement has now been drafted, and I've been advised that the Prime Minister and I will sign it this evening on our return from Shashamane. What this visa waiver agreement would do is simply this: that persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines wanting to come to Ethiopia would simply have to, all they have to do, just go and buy their ticket and come to Ethiopia, because they would not require a visa to enter the country. They would be able to come to the country and stay, Ambassador John, up to 90 days. Up to 90 days here. And whilst they're here, they can make all the other arrangements and regularize their own status. The same thing with our brothers and sisters who are citizens of Ethiopia, can come to St. Vincent on the identical terms. It is the first time, to my knowledge, that any country in the diaspora has established such an arrangement with Ethiopia. It is a major breakthrough and has revolutionary implications for the contact between the peoples of Ethiopia and of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Secondly, we have agreed that we would establish, that is to say the Prime Minister, the Zenawi, and myself, we have agreed to establish in our respective capitals honorary consuls, and we would set about selecting one person, both here in Addis Ababa and also in Kingstown, to represent the various interests of our countries and peoples. Thirdly, we have taken the decision to strengthen our links to improve our cultural relations, in education, and also in matters of trade in goods and services. I have offered to the government of Ethiopia scholarships provided by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for Ethiopians wishing to study in St. Vincent at our School of Nursing, at our Technical College, at our Teachers College, and at our Division of Arts, Science and Humanities of the Community College. We hope also to have Vincentians come here to the University of Addis Ababa to study. I've made a proposal also to have Ras Hailu Tafarai employed here in Ethiopia to teach young Ethiopians the banana art, his salary to be paid by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am hopeful that we can establish at a formal level relations between the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Rastafari community here in Shashamani, where the government can assist in mobilizing resources to help you with your educational programs for the children and the young persons here in your community. We have a very important strategic objective. We want to see a link institutionally established between the African Union and CARICOM. But I go further and ask for, I did so in a speech in Jamaica at a conference where I was invited to speak by the African Union, the Jamaican government, and the South African government. Earlier this year, my brother attended the conference also. And I'm suggesting what I call the ABC Commission, a commission between Africa, Brazil, and the Caribbean. Brazil has the largest group of persons of African descent in the diaspora. They're the largest group of persons of African descent anywhere in the world outside of Africa. And it is very important that we involve them. And the airline links from the south of the Caribbean, Trinidad, Venezuela, Brazil, and you can come over easily from Brazil to West Africa and over to Ethiopia and Eastern Africa, or to go to Southern Africa if one wishes. The proposal has been accepted both by the African Union and CARICOM for us to have observer status respectively in each of those bodies. That is to say, CARICOM would have an observer status at the African Union, and the African Union an observer status with CARICOM, so that we know, each of us know what we are doing. Of course, there are several Caribbean countries which historically have had very strong ties with Africa. And in the Caribbean, the one which has actually put its people's lives on the line is the Republic of Cuba. When Cuba joined the MPLA in Angola and delivered to the racist South African army in the Battle of Cuito Cuanavale a decisive defeat, which paved the way for the freeing of Nelson Mandela and the dismantling of apartheid in South Africa.
Rastafari can fly, your love. Rastafari, I know. Rastafari can one my angel.
That's where we end this evening's presentation from the Agency for Public Information. I am Loma Williams. Good night.